Kia ora, Coast Youth. My name is Olivia and I'm the youth pastor here at Coast Vineyard. I am joined with the lovely Susie Young, who is a counsellor, a former high school teacher, and a member of Coast Vineyard Church. Welcome, Susie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Olivia. It is a pleasure always to talk to you. Always.
I love it. Okay, so first question, let me get it. Susie, how do you deal with your mental health when it gets bad, but your friends aren't in a position to help and you aren't in a position to seek professional help? How do you deal with it and find comfort and support when you feel helpless and have no one? Good question.
Oh, I hear that question, and it just, to me, is so loaded. There is so much in there. So we're just going to pick it out little bit by little bit and see how much we can get through. Yeah. I mean, the first thing is, if my friends can't help me, what do? I'm going, okay, that's really hard. When you know that you can't turn to your friends or your friends don't have the capacity. Now, part of me says, yeah, that makes sense. Your friends aren't trained professionals. Yeah. Why would we dump all of our stuff, all of our hurt, all of our pain, all of our stuff when we know perhaps, and we've worked out reasonably, that our friends can't handle that? And that's okay to know that. And so then you go, well, who do I go to? And this person is asking this question going, there's no one. I've got no one. And that's where my heart breaks, because wow, to feel like you're in that place where there is no one to help you can feel so frightening, so overwhelming, that you've got to carry all of this by ourselves. And part of me wants to say it's a really common myth to think that we are the only player in our drama. It's really common to think that nobody will understand this. I'm all alone in this and I can't share this with anyone else. And I wonder if this is one of the lies that we hold on to, because when we are starting to get lower and lower and lower, and our mental health is taking a hit, it's amazing how these lies come and grab us and grab hold of us, these untruths that we start to live out of. In psychology, we call them negative or distorted cognitive distortions, or negative distortions, or negative schemas. There are fancy words for them. But I wonder if these lies that we live out of, I am all alone and there is no one there for me, start to feel very real. And whoever is asking this question, I want to say, you are not alone and you are never alone, ever. There is always somebody there for you. In counselling, we kind of know that there are signs for who can help you along this journey. And it's almost like if their journey was like a big arc, and at the bottom, you know, we were at a green light, and traveling up, we were at an orange light, and at the top, we were red. There's a red light. There are very real things that we start going, hey, if these things are in place, at this level, friends are good. At this level, grab some more people around you who have wisdom and can help you. But when we start hitting the red light, it's where you need a professional to help you. And they're things like suicidal thoughts, real self-harm, disassociation, hopelessness, inability to function, you know, that stuff where your body is shutting down and it's saying, I can't do this anymore. That's where on that journey, the friends probably aren't right. And even parents who really love you and want to help you, who aren't trained in this place, again, they're there when the orange light is going off. But when we start hitting the red light, that's where we really seek professional help. And there is so much professional help in New Zealand to wrap around young people. You know, most counsellors can access some free funding for young people. So, you know, I hear it when this person says, I've got nobody, but it's not true. You know, there is always someone. Sometimes it can be, I don't know how to trust. I've never been able to trust anybody with my mess or my pain or my hurt. And that's really hard. And that breaks my heart. And as a counsellor, you know, I see that every day where someone sits with me and says, I'm so scared to even say this. And I know, I get that. It's really hard. So, you know, the answer to that one is the friends can't help you. Yeah, I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got into a place where friends aren't the right person to help you, but certainly you're not alone on this journey.
Yeah. I hear
Yeah.
that. If this young person wanted to access some support, to access professional help, where do they go? Where do they even start?
Well, Olivia, I have put together a resource to share with you. And in this resource, all the places that you can go to find a counsellor. So, you know, the Gumboot Foundation, your school counsellor, youth line, there's all the helplines, there are all the apps. Sometimes an app is great, but it's that face-to-face, you know, meeting a person face-to-face is so important. So take that risk. So have a look at the resources that are there, because there are good places. I mean, and just talk to you, Olivia, because you know how to send people on to find a counsellor. Yeah. Here's a funny story. When I used to be a maths teacher, I don't know why, but I was a maths teacher. And I noticed this phenomenon, and I started to tell the kids in the class about this phenomenon. And when they noticed it, it was true. If somebody would put their hand up to ask for help in the classroom, and I'd trot off and I'd get to the desk, and then I would get there and they'd go, "Oh, no, I'm okay now. I've worked it out." And it's not that they didn't need my help, but half of it was actually learning how to reach out and actually put your hand up. But in doing that, each time it would help them gain clarity around what they were thinking. Now, I'm not saying that that's the answer for counselling, just put your hand up and then it will all come together. But so much of solving a problem in the first place is just putting your hand up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That when I say I don't know or I'm confused, we actually give our brain a rest for a minute and go, okay, I don't know, I don't have the answers. I can change gear now and I can rest a bit and stop trying to solve this all by myself. Anyway, it's just a thought.
I love that. I actually love that pausing and I don't know, I do need help can sometimes just give your mind a bit of a break. I love that. Next question. This is a big one. So, you know, feel free to answer it how you want to. Is self-harm bad / what are the Bible views on it?
I tried to look up Bible verses on self-harm. I didn't find any.
Yeah.
So then I think about, well, what is self-harm? And I see self-harm all the time in all of its manifestations. And we think of self-harm primarily as cutting, and we call that non-suicidal self-harm. But there are so many other ways of self-harm, and some of them we don't even notice or see, especially around eating disorders. But then there can be other forms of self-harm, overworking, underworking, withdrawing, substance abuse. You know, there are multiple facets of self-harm, and we know that self-harm primarily comes from emotional distress. Here is a pain inside of me that I don't know how to solve, and this pain is so much that I will try and withdraw from it or fight it, control it or manage it in some way. So all of these things, from substance abuse to cutting, become these ways of me trying to solve my own emotional distress. And part of me thinks that isn't the Bible, in essence, the whole story of how humanity tried to manage their own life and tried to control and work out their emotional pain or distress in their own way, and God reaching in with his grace and going, what, you're in pain? I see you. I will send my son for you to sit in your mess. He will come to earth and he will be fully human and he will feel all that you feel. So the Bible is God's love story to us to say, what? Your emotional distress, I see it. I know it. And I will send my son who will know you and know your humanity and know all of your mess, and he will bundle it up and make it presentable and bring it back to me. and he will act as the go-between. And it is his faith that will make you presentable in my sight. So does the Bible have anything to say about this? It says, I pour my grace out over your distress. I see it, I know it, I hold it, I love it, and I make you presentable. So I really appreciate that. And I hear this story, about harm, and I want to just pick up on some of the lies that people have when they're in the midst of emotional distress and they're going, I don't know any way out of this. Things are never going to get better for me. I have to do this to feel better. I have to do this to be in control. Nobody is there for me in this. I'll never be able to change. And can you hear all of these lies that start coming in again in the midst of this pain? And I don't want to trivialize this or minimize these lies, because they're so important, and they become something that we almost wear and carry as our identity and go, how do I step out of this pain? The only way I know is to manage it and do it by myself. And again, I'm saying, hey, I hear you. That makes sense that you've been working so hard to try and protect this pain or defend this pain. And the only way you know how to do it is to harm. Wow, how hard that has been for you. And what a big journey. And then as a counselor, I go, you're not alone. Let me sit with this pain and let me help you find a way to know that you can hold this pain. Because we know that pain, like the rain, won't last forever. And so we learn how to know what pain looks like when it turns up for us and how to hold it. Because, isn't that the promise that Jesus has, that he sits with us in the midst of this? And so does the Bible have anything to say about emotional distress? Yeah, totally. And is it bad? Well, I know that God runs towards me when I'm in pain. And his response is just to cover me and to love me through that. And so I'm really thankful for that. So is it bad? Well, I don't think there's an easy answer for that, apart from that God just loves us in the midst of our pain. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is such a beautiful answer to a very heavy and deep question. I really, kia ora, I really appreciate that answer. And I think if there is anyone who is self-harming or who is thinking those thoughts, to know that God loves you, full stop, not when you do this or because you do this or if you stop doing this. He loves you, full stop, end of conversation. But if you're feeling those thoughts that you're wanting to hurt yourself or to self-harm, that it's super important to reach out and to ask for help and to get someone alongside you that can support you and journey with you, so that these thoughts don't become your identity. Okay, next question. How do you maintain positive mental health?
Well, Olivia, how do I maintain positive mental health?
Yeah, how do you do it, Susie?
Okay. I want to give a theoretical answer, but also a personal answer. This is from me. How do I do it? I work really hard at it.
Yeah.
And I have worked really hard at noticing what is going on for me when my mental health starts declining.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm getting scratchy and irritable and weepy, I know that my mental health needs to be worked on. Yep. And so for me, because I'm a turtle, I will withdraw inwards and try and protect myself. And I know the antidote for me is to reach out. So I'm learning to use my words and to talk to the people that love me and say, hey, that was a hard day. Or I'm feeling a little bit scratchy right now. Can I have a hug? Or to touch base with a friend and go, this is just hard. So letting somebody into my world to tell them that it's hard is my antidote for my mental health. However, I am also solar powered, and I know that without sunshine, my mental health goes down. So I see it every
love
winter.
that.
And I have to get out in the sun. And I have to go out into nature to feel as though I am coming alive again. But I just want to pivot and go like to this theoretical answer, because we know, and we're taught at school around ho water, and we're taught around like the whare, the four houses of the building that is our health, our physical health and our mental health and our spiritual health and our, what have I not said? Social,
our family,
whānau, yeah, our sense of belonging, hey. And we know that we have to balance those walls, hey. And I was thinking about that because there's stuff that we can do to build those walls ourselves. We generally know the things that we need to do. So for me, it's like sunshine and reaching out to friends. Worship is so important to me. So there are things that I can do to build those walls, because I know that for all sorts of reasons, if I don't hold those walls strong, they'll crumble. And I know that there are outside things that will break my walls too. There are global pandemics, horrendous things, traumas, accidents, ill health, they can crumble my walls. So I know that there are things that I can do to build it. And I know that there are things that can happen on the outside to destroy it. So I'm thinking about these walls like this. But here's the other thing. I have a fantastic Māori supervisor, a beautiful, beautiful woman, who has taught me that ho water, the meaning of the word ho water, she says, like, break up the words. And what does it mean? She says, ho is breath. And order is all around us, the all around us well-being. And she says, at the center of your house, the ho water is the very breath of God himself. And so then I think about all of the scriptures where God says he breathes life into us, that he is the very essence of our being, that it is his breath that gives us life. And I think, oh my gosh, not only do I have to protect these walls and strengthen them, but if I think about my house is the foundation of the breath of life itself. That if I need these walls to be strong, isn't it the very breath of the living God who makes them strong? That it is him that holds my house together. So then when I'm thinking about how do I strengthen my well-being, I strengthen my relationship with the very creator of the breath of life himself. And I go, this is where I maintain my mental health. This is where I go when there is distress. This is where I go when there is pain. I go to the person who gives me breath and I breathe him in and I sit with him in his presence, because this is where I find my mental health. And that sounds like a theoretical answer, but it's also a very personal answer, because I did not find any balance in my mental health until I learned to breathe in my very God himself. So, I cannot express how much that is important to me. Like, I can't build my house without the ho water from the living God, the all around me living breath of vitality and life. So that's how I maintain my mental health. I can't do it without worship. I can't do it without prayer. I can't do it without the word. I can't do it without my Christian friends. I can't do it without belonging to a family of God. I can't do it without him. Yeah.
I love that answer. I've never heard that Haute Whānau Whā explained that way, that central being, that breath. That's amazing. I seriously, I appreciate that. You've got a slide of the whare and the signs.
I do. But you have to imagine then that what comes in and fills the whare, like if a whare is just these walls, let's fill the whole whare, the whole ho water with the breath of God. Yeah.
Okay, next question. There's another good God question. As happiness comes from circumstances and joy comes from knowing God, how do you still have joy when facing depression?
I thought about this, and you're so right. Happiness is this fleeting thing that we know comes and goes, and happiness is circumstantial. Sometimes, though, we kind of think that everybody else is happy and we're not. Have you ever thought that? Like, oh my gosh, everyone's happy. And so we start to believe that everybody around us is happy, and there must be something wrong with us because we're not happy. A lie. Okay, this is another one of these cognitive distortion, negative cognitive thinking that's like too hard for me to say, but it's a big one. Isn't it interesting, though, that we know that the only way that Satan can get to us is through lies? He is the master of lies. So it's so interesting that he loves to capture our thoughts and spread these lies. Wow, you're not happy. Something's wrong with you. Everyone else is happy. And we know that joy comes from God. So how do we find it? Now, admittedly, I know when you're really hitting that red zone, it is really hard. So I know that as the body is shutting down and somebody is in desperate depression, how hard it is to find joy. But here's what I think again. Imagine if you are a plant, right? And you start to get really upset because it hasn't rained for days, and the rain is what you need to be happy because you're a plant and you need rain to grow. Oh, and you start to get really upset because all the other plants have rain and you don't, and there must be something wrong with you because there's no rain on you. You know, it's kind of like that happiness thing. How will I ever survive if I don't have any rain because I'm not happy? Or how will I ever survive because I'm not happy? But actually a plant survives because of its roots. And it's the roots, again, down into God, that actually hold us. And so when we're looking for the rain to sustain us, that maybe there are some wells down there, and there is hidden groundwater, and there is a very source of water itself that comes from a spring that is eternal, that is our joy, that we know that we are held. And so then we go, well, what are the roots that put us down into God? Because if I'm looking for joy as well, like I know that joy is something I'm trying to capture because I haven't got happiness, it hasn't rained on me for a while and I'm not happy, then I go, well, where are my roots and how do I put down these roots and how am I deeply embedded in Him? And what are the practices that I am doing and the disciplines that I am doing to hold myself in this faith? Because if I don't hold myself down with deep roots, oh my gosh, I'll start swaying, and then when a storm hits, I'm gone, and I'm giving up on this because I don't have any roots down into the spring and the well and the thing that will sustain me. So we go, well, what are the practices that we are going to do? Like, you know, I've talked about, like, it's my worship, it's my prayer life, it's my meeting regularly, it's my being accountable with friends, it's hanging in there and going to church even when I don't feel like it. That is, these are my roots. It is the reading, and when I don't understand the Bible, I'll read everything I can around it to try and understand it. And I put down roots and I keep putting down roots, and now my roots, I know, are getting so long that when storms come, these roots into joy are there, and I've got to make that effort to grow those roots, you know, to find that eternal spring of joy. One of the practices that we talk about a lot as psychologists and counselors is the idea of gratitude, because we are asked to, I'm trying to think of that scripture around, and I should have written this down, I don't know, taming the mind. Anyway, it's something about that, and I wish I could just like sprout things. But the idea that we get to tame these negative thoughts and tame and hold and contain the unhappiness, the antidote to that is gratitude. That finding one thing in your day to go, hey, I am thankful for. It reteaches the brain how to hold on to joy. And it's almost like it's this root that is like a supercharged root that goes down into God when we start doing the gratitude. It's so interesting. Like we say grace every night when we have dinner, and I'm like, don't say such a short grace. We've got so much to be thankful for. In my head, I'm going, this is my moment to pause and go, I remember I am grateful. I remember I am grateful that you hold all things together, that there is joy in the world because you are here. You give me hope that whatever is around me and the storm that is around me, that you are here as my spring of eternal life. So it's the plant analogy. Hey,
I love
yeah.
that. I really love that. And I love that idea of like the supercharged root being like finding the things you're thankful for. I remember when my kids were newborn and I was in the very newborn twin crazy stage, and life was a cloud and it was dark and heavy and everything. But every night at 7 o'clock, my alarm would go off and I'd have to say to myself, what are 3 things you're thankful for today? What are the 3 things that you love? And sometimes they were very small things, like I'm so thankful for good quality nappies so that poo doesn't shoot out of them, or whatever it was. But it was finding those things that were just small but actually huge, that would just like lift my mood and just make me be like, it's good. This is good.
Maybe gratitude is like a portal. Even it's like it's this thing that says it takes me away from me and into God, because I am turning away from my circumstances, my life, me seeing the other flowers that have rain that I don't, and going, but you, God, it is you I am thankful for, and we turn towards him. So maybe it's like that supercharged root that allows us to come back into the presence of joy itself.
Yeah, this is a good one. What do you do when someone who has mental health issues annoys you?
Oh no, I've had somebody say this to me, how long is that person going to be in counseling? Because oh my gosh, like I'm so over them not being well, and I'm like, okay.
That's not a very kind thing or a loveful thing.
Well, part of me is like, oh, I hear you that their mess and their pain is getting to you, and you feel like you can't cope with that mess and the pain anymore. Sometimes it's okay to put boundaries in your life. If there is so much mess or pain in a certain part, maybe there are some things you need to do to protect yourself. Good. But I was wondering what it would be like if somebody looked at me and went, that mess or pain, nah, I don't want to go there. That's too much. That's annoying me.
Yeah.
How I would feel if somebody wanted to walk away from me because my pain was annoying them. And I was just like, oh, far out. I would be so gutted, because what we need in the depth of where we're at is to know that our mess isn't too much.
Yeah.
So then again, we choose wisely about who we leave with our mess, because maybe our mess is too much for them. And maybe this person is saying, hey, it is actually too much for me. I don't know how to deal with it. And it's okay to say that, because if you are not trained in this stuff, that mess will feel like too much. And that's okay. But I just kind of think, okay, well, if that is too much for you, what is your choice around love? Because when we unpack what love is, and I kind of wrote this down because I thought, I won't remember this because I can never remember scripture right away. And it says, love never gives up. It cares for others, more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut. It doesn't have a swelled head. It doesn't force itself on others. It isn't always me first, and it doesn't fly off the handle. It doesn't keep the score, and it doesn't revel when others grovel. It takes pleasure in truth, and it puts up with anything. Love always looks for the best. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. I take a breath and I go, if I'm getting annoyed with somebody because their mess feels like it's too messy for me, I'll pause and go, okay, how do I love? What can I take on in this place, because man, if we the church aren't loving people in their mess, what are we there for? You know, this is what we are called to do. So if somebody's mental health is annoying you and bothering you, two things. One, it might be too much for you, and you know that, and that's your rub, so be careful with that yourself. But two, if it's annoying you, how do you put on more love? And how do you be present to what love asks us to do in this moment? Yeah.
That is very practical and helpful advice. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, but I just know I don't want to be left alone if I'm annoying somebody with my mental health. Like, don't leave me. Just you don't have to fix me. You don't have to solve me. Please, just don't leave me.
Yeah. Yeah. Two more questions. How do you open up to people? Which is a question and also a little question. Like it's I don't know how you're gonna.
It's a huge question. Here's what I know. Okay, so here's what I know. Shame loves to hide. So everything about shame says, don't come near me. No, you can't come into this mess. I'm going to keep it away from you. I'm going to do everything I can to solve it by myself. And the more that shame hides, and the more that we build this wall around ourselves, the harder it becomes to let somebody in, because we start growing this belief that I have to hold on to this by myself. And how do I open up to someone else and break down that? Because the answer and the key to anything is letting the light in, you know, and where the smallest amount of light comes in, and imagine a tiny amount of light, like a little match coming into the darkness. You know, if we just light one little match, suddenly the light is just so big in a place. So I know how scary and hard it is to let someone in and to open up this chink to say, help, I am hurting. But I also think that the bravest thing that we can ever do is ask for help. Like the bravest thing. And again, it's like putting up your hand in the classroom. If only you can just put up your hand, you're starting to let the light come in. And I get how we start to believe this lie that we've got to do it by ourselves. Surely I am some sort of self-contained vehicle that can just go through life and never need anybody, and I'll do it all by myself. But we're not. We were created out of relationship, to be in relationship, to find healing in relationship, to find our fullness in relationship. As human beings, it is what we are there for. We're not islands. We were never meant to be islands on our own. And so if you know you're writing this question and you're saying, I don't know how to ask for help, I go, I know it's hard, and I know it's scary. And what are the small steps that you can do to do this? And maybe a face-to-face is really hard. Maybe a phone call to one of the helplines. Maybe a message out to, say, you, Olivia, to go for help. You know, I'm finding it's really, really hard. Can feel a little bit less scary than walking up to somebody and going, I need a counsellor. But, you know, maybe just a message out there. And you know, the hardest thing too is to go to your parents and go, hey, this is really hard and I need some help. Because we feel like we're going to disappoint the people that we love if we're asking for help or we're messy. And we hate letting people down. Or we think that our parents want us to be perfect, and actually our parents just want us to be loved and held. And so, you know, even reaching out to a parent to say, this is really hard, I know it's scary, and I know that you want to just hold on to it by yourself and not let anybody into this pain, but it's like the bravest thing you can ever do is ask for help.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like, if there are people that are watching this that, you know, the person that asked this question, or if there are other people that this question resonates with them and you don't know how to ask for help, or you're too scared to, please know that I am a person that will hear that. If you need to send me a text that says, I need some help, or I don't know how to open up, or whatever, know that I want to be that person for you, and I will hear that, and I will take that, and I will respond well, and we can start this journey of opening up and having more conversations together. So let me be your first step if that's too scary to contact anyone else.
Cool. Can I ask for you, and this is like, as counselors, like we have this rule around confidentiality, like what happens in the room stays in the room. I'm going to start talking to people. So can I kind of like do this like pinky pact with you too, that if anybody was to ask you for help, that the whole thing is confidential. You're not going to go out and go, oh, well, I just want to let the whole youth group know that like Joey asked for help, and so we've all just got to pray for Joey, you know, because so if somebody comes to you and says, hey, look, things are hard, that it's kind of like this cone that says, yeah, I get that. Let me just find a way for you to find somebody who you can talk to. And that is kind of, it's confidential. Yeah.
100%. If anyone wants to share anything with me, it is always in this space of confidentiality, and knowing that it's hard and it's scary to put your hand up. I get that. I've been in that space, so know that I hold that, I hear that, and I think you're brave for doing that, and I will respect that confidentiality, of course. I love that. I pinky promise.
Pinky promise. I like it. I kind of want to say, like, there is always one sort of the one place that trumps confidentiality is harm. That if someone's at harm of really hurting themselves, at that stage we go, you know what, right here, right now, we're just going to find as many people as we can, or not as many people, that's the wrong thing, the right people really hold you in this space. Because actually right now we might need to come in and really support you, because we don't want any harm to come to you. Hey. Yeah,
that is true. My biggest thing is we hold confidentiality, and not just me, but all of our youth leaders. We hold confidentiality unless you yourself are hurting, like you're in harm's way, or someone else is in harm's way. Then we have a duty of care to say something to someone, and that's not to, oh, did you hear this person? It's nothing like that. It's that we're going to report this to the right people, making sure that the right people.
And on the flip side of that, Olivia, sometimes we think, you know, oh, I know my friend is doing this or doing that, and she's told me not to tell anybody, so I'm not going to tell anybody because friends don't tell people. But actually, the reality is that harm always trumps this. That when we see somebody who is in harm and serious harm of really hurting themselves, we don't hold that confidential, but we don't go blabbing it, but we find the right people to support them.
Absolutely. I think that you've explained it really well. I think that's right. We have a duty of care to look out for everyone, and if you see someone in harm's way, you got to say something. You can't worry about the repercussions, or they told me not to say something, but actually you have a duty of care to report it. Last question. Are we ready for it?
Yep.
What if your mum has bad mental health? How do you help her, or your dad too?
Wow. I mean, in part, we've kind of covered that off in the last question around asking for help. What a difficult thing to know that the people that you love so dearly are hurting. And if somebody is asking us and going, hey, I know my mum is really, really struggling. So I've got a couple of things, like know their signs, learn what are their signs of depression, because nobody walks through depression in the same way. But there are some big things, you know, that we can start looking out for when they're not sleeping much, or they're losing their appetite, or they're not functioning and they're not doing the things that they normally do. They're withdrawing from social engagements. And certainly if they're going, I want to hurt myself, or I don't want to be here anymore, you know, we start to go, hey, these are the signs of depression. And that's where we're going, maybe you need some help. You know, one of the things is like the whole elephant in the room. Sometimes when there's an elephant in the room, we're too afraid to talk about it. But kind of in my job, is something I talk about, and right off the bat, I'll say, how's your mental health? What's going on for you right now? So don't be afraid to talk about it. And if somebody says it's hard, just go, I'm here. So knowing that you're not going to shy away from these conversations with the people that you love. But, it's a huge thing if it's your parent, this feeling like, oh, what if I do something to upset them? Like, how do I carry this? Am I going to walk on eggshells because my mum could be like this? Or, oh, the pain that this is causing me because I don't know how to react. And is this my fault? Boy, they're big things. And if you're supporting somebody, make sure that you're okay. Like, it's okay to talk to somebody to like lock down your mental health, because that's a really big thing to carry. It's huge to live with somebody who has bad mental health. So check in around your her water and make sure that your whare is strong and look after yourself. But know that you don't have to fix them. It's not your job to fix them. It's just your job to sit with them in the pain and to understand that sometimes all we need is somebody to sit beside us on the log when we're hurting, We don't need somebody to solve all the world's problems. We just need a friend to sit with us. And it's really tricky when it's somebody that you love so much, but knowing that you're not afraid to have a hard conversation, to talk about their mental health, knowing that you can just be somebody to offer them support, and knowing what it is and what their depression might look like. So you see the warning signs so you can help them when they need it, and ask for help. So maybe the end of our conversation is like, here are my final words: ask for help. Well, it's the hardest thing you will ever do.
Yeah.
But ask for help.
Yeah. That is what I was gonna that's what I was going to ask, is what is the final, or what is the big thing that you can impart to young people? We've answered some big questions. You have answered some big questions. And I'm sure that the answers have been helpful, but what do you think would be the one thing that you could impart to young people as they navigate the next 3 to 5 years of teenage years, or whatever it's going to look like? What is the big thing? And it's okay to ask for help?
Maybe imagine if you are ill, and you are really sick, and you're okay. You go to the doctor and the doctor helps you, and you know that you can do that. It's this idea that it's okay sometimes if your mental health takes a beating, that we all go through it. We all have had moments where we can ride that roller coaster or go this way, going, things are escalating and we're going into the red zone. That pain and distress and grief and the ache and the hurt and the mess, you're not alone in it. That so many of us have walked this journey, and you're not the only one. But the big takeaway, and the absolute big takeaway, is that Jesus walked this too. That if he came to be fully human, he has experienced all of this as well, all of this. And he knows the source. Like, he's got roots deep, deep, deep into the Father, and trusted the Father on the whole journey. And so my takeaway is, you're not alone. That there are people that can walk this with you, and there is God who can walk this with you. You are not alone, and it's okay to ask for help.
Kia ora. I love that. Thank you so much, Susie, for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your knowledge with us. I really appreciate you as an individual, but also appreciate all that you've shared for our Coast Youth whānau. Amazing. I have got your spreadsheet, and I'm going to post it so that everyone can see it. But if people wanted to come and see you as a counsellor, is that a possibility, or would you recommend people see somebody else? What's the...
I run a private practice. Yes. I can only access funding for 2 free sessions for young people.
Yep.
The first port of call is your school counsellor. They're free. I am a school counsellor 2 days a week. And it is such a privilege to walk that journey with the kids at my school, like such a privilege. And, you know, I have 3 days a week where you can, but I've almost got no availability outside of school hours. So that's a little bit hard.
Yeah.
But, you know, because I am Coast Vineyard, this is my whānau. So I'm always available for my whānau, like always.
Yeah.
Always. And I will find room for family. I will make space for family. I will send resources out for family, because family is family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, together we will find the best place for people to get the support that they need.
Yeah. Love it. And I mean, there are other counsellors out there on the coast that we can access. Gumboot Foundation has got a list of a whole bunch of accredited counsellors you can go to. You can go to any website, just search in counsellors in my area. You can find a whole bunch of good counsellors. And also your school counsellor is definitely the best place to go to, even if they're a starting point, and they can then refer you on to other places. And you've got a whole bunch of help numbers. I've got a whole bunch of help numbers that will post out. So there is always help available. Sometimes it's tricky finding the place to start, but that's what I'm here for. Call me and we'll figure out that together.
And then your protocol is like to call me and go, hey, where do we go? And then we'll work it out together, because, you know, we don't let family hurt.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, aroha, did I get that right? Thank you, Olivia, for this conversation. I've really, really enjoyed just talking through these things with you and sharing them with you.
No, thank you so much, Susie, for sharing your heart and your experience with us. We really appreciate it. And if people see you at Coast Vineyard, I'm sure they will give you a bit of a aroha, a bit of a love, maybe a little sideways. So I saw you. But honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Aroha nui. I really appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you, Susie.
Kia ora.